Greetings, Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux fans. This is Napalm Dawn, and we're here to talk about some of the updates that we will be seeing in the future for Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux. Before we get into the meat of the video, one thing that I want to go ahead, or a few things that I want to go ahead and talk about ahead of time, aside from the fact that a cat has jumped up on the back of my chair. There's Chewie behind me. For those who've not heard about Chewie much on the channel, Chewie is named after Captain Marvel's original cat in the comics, Chewbacca, not Goose as it was in the movie. My intent was actually to name him after the movie version, but I completely forgot he was Goose in the movie and not Chewie. But anyway, aside from Chewie being on the back of my chair over here causing a ruckus, one thing that I want to start off with here is the questions about mobile versions. No, there's not going to be a mobile version of the game. For a million reasons why, you're never going to see a mobile version of Marvel Avengers Alliance. However, I can explain why, because this will maybe give you some ideas of it and whether or not the never say never thing actually matters over here. Now, when it comes to iOS devices, in order to load a game or an app or anything onto a iOS device that isn't from the iTunes store, you need to generally be jailbroken. So that means if you wanted to play this mobile on an iPhone or an iPad, you would never be able to do it unless you were jailbroken in some way, shape, or form. Whether you were doing the hard jailbreaks or the more soft ones that kind of do the certificate thing in the downloads. So that's right out. Android, you are more capable of getting a game like this on there because you can sideload without being rooted or anything. You just have to say, yes, I would like to install out-of-market things. And there is the possibility it could work on Android. However, you have to remember, Android got rid of Flash literally just about, well, not a decade ago, but about half a decade ago at the very least. By 2013 or so, they were really trying to phase Flash out of Android devices, which is why if you wanted to play Marvel Avengers Alliance from Facebook on an Android phone, most of the browsers wouldn't let you do it. You had to use Penguin in order to do it. And eventually even Penguin got so shitty that basically what I did is I put TeamViewer on my Android devices and just TeamViewered into my computer and played it on my computer through mobile. That's how I did it. Because Penguin really started to fall apart over there. So, mobile is out. There's been some Mac questions lately. I'll tackle that. For this to run on a Mac, you would need to be able to have some kind of a Shockwave player, which I think might be hard to find on the iTunes store at this time. You're better off with a Windows emulator like Boot Camp or Wine of some sort. I don't remember all the names of the working Windows emulators from Macs currently, but the best thing to do is to just emulate Windows and download the normal version and run the Windows executable, the .exe. If you had a Shockwave player, I believe you can attempt to run the SWF version of it, and it may work, it may not. That's a little bit sketchy. So, that out of the way, I want to do one last little intro thing before we get into the meat of the video, and that is to give a shout out to DP Alliance and Canal TV. I know you guys are covering the game for the Latin American countries down in Brazil and South American countries and everything like that. Keep up the good work, but make sure your information is up to date. I believe on Canal TV's YouTube channel, he has been pitching Alpha 5 as the download to a lot of people, and that is causing confusion. And there are some people that are in the comments of Canal TV's videos that speak on behalf of the project, and they kind of shouldn't. And they're giving some not correct information, everything like that. So please do know that Beta 2 and Beta 3 are the most recent available betas. You want to go with Beta 2 if you want an experience like you see on my screen currently. Beta 2 is more focused on combat and giving you the roster, allowing you to hear a lot of the sounds you used to hear, see the visuals, get access to the characters and the skins. You can use one of my videos to edit some of the weapons into the agent. Beta 2 is pretty stable for its combat and everything. This is the one that you want to do if you actually want to experience some combat. Beta 3 is good for UI related items and support items within the game, like running around in the store or checking out different functional areas of the UI, money, going to your allies and collecting, running your jets and upgrading your jets and setting them up on your helicarrier, leveling characters and having a leveling queue and everything like that, and combat auto plays. So what happens is you pick your people for combat, let's say Destroyer and Angela, and sort of like a dice rolling game. The game dice rolls your combat, and if you win, you win. If you don't, well, then you lose. So combat occurs in the background. You don't have an active control over it. That is because Goofy was not focused on combat for that one. He was focused on UI elements. Once we get to Beta 4, which I do not have an update on at this time, but more on that in just a moment, you will see sort of a merging of the fork. Like back when the Windows had the Windows NT line, which was the business line, and the Windows 9X line, which was the home line, Windows XP became the merger of NT and the 9X line. So it had the power of the business Windows, and it had the functionality of the home Windows. That is what Goofy will be doing with Beta 4, and that is he will be merging the combat and the UI elements. So I have gotten in touch with Goofy. I've asked him to kind of give me a little bit of an update on what's been happening. He said free time for coding has been a little problematic recently. Real life always takes its toll, and it's been a little bit tough to get a lot of the coding time down now that he's had compared to the past and everything. And I understand that, because as you can see from my channel, since I've had my move and I've now moved into my house from my townhouse, and my girlfriend and I are first time home buyers, it's been a little tough for me to get content out. It's partially due to the schedule the girlfriend and I have. I don't like to record a video, like for example, say she's in a Final Fantasy 14 raid, because we're both doing speaking related things, and we've been doing a lot of unpacking. We have certain unpacking to get done by a date this week, because we have a new bed coming in. The old bed's going to a room where there's some boxes, so it should get a lot better by the end of May, and content should resume a more normal regular schedule. And I'd like to cover that Marvel Snap once I get my hands on it. I know a lot of people have covered Benjamin Brody's videos, and they're Twitch streaming the videos and everything. I kind of don't want to do that yet. I don't want to start like lifting Ben's videos and do a talk over to his content. I probably will not start covering it until I actually get my hands on it. But it does seem to be a thinking man's game, and that could be really interesting. And it's also very quick. It's only 6 rounds per game. And there's even some kind of internal gambling mechanics with it, like doubling down and whatnot. So things, I understand Goofy having limited time to code, but in a piece of good news, there are game creators that he has tapped to help with the code. They're just currently working on their own projects and not available yet, but that is good news for us and good news for Goofy, because Goofy has kind of been a one-man show for a long time. There was somebody who claimed to want to help a couple years ago, and that person actually stole the source code and tried to do their own fork and literally recruit slash hire people to his fork of it. And we shut that shit down really quick and issued a lot of complaints about it on YouTube, got the channel struck down. You kind of really don't want to mess with this project right now. We have to keep a tight rein on it because we don't want unsavory actors, unsavory mechanics getting involved in here. And I realized this week that when I was responding to some people on the Marvel Snap Twitter feed, that somebody had posted a screenshot of Marvel Avengers Alliance and said, we want games like this again. And everybody was like, oh, that game was great. That game was so great. I wanted it back. And it was like, that was my childhood. And somebody was like, oh, bring a remaster of this game back. And I said, it is being remastered. Here's a link. And I was like, oh, wow. I am responding to people on an official Marvel Twitter feed. Maybe this is rolling the dice a little bit too close to home over here. So I started responding to people and took out the Marvel feed in the replies, where I was just replying to the one user who would make a comment and kind of killing people off of like the reply all mechanic of Twitter. So I curtailed that a little bit. But if anybody happens to be here from that little Twitter thread, welcome. Enjoy your stay over here at G4G. So Goofy did say he wants to redo some animations in Unity. He will probably try a quick battle or two without animations in Unity to see how they work. Wants to maybe take a break from Flash because Flash is aging and definitely has its own issues. And he's trying to tackle the combat problems. Now, I don't know if that means animation problems in combat or if it means the actual mechanics of combat, like debuffs and matches ending properly, debuffs staying, refreshes working. I mean, we know ridiculously how complicated combat is in Marvel Avengers Alliance, because even when it was live as MAA on Playdom, they had their own issues with combat. One of the bugs that they never fixed that I constantly reported to them, and having clicked on Psylocke is a good segue to it. When Psylocke was running with other X-Force characters, she had the ability to make them invisible by her presence on the field. So if it was, let's say, her and Phantom X, and you dropped into combat, combat would check if there's any pre-combat buffs that are supposed to happen. And the thing is, sometimes that check did not occur until the first action of combat. So what would happen is, in the beginning of combat, the way that it is supposed to go is that it's supposed to say, okay, I'm checking the actors in this combat. I see X-Force Psylocke. I see X-Force Phantom X. That means all X-Force should be invisible, and I forget what Phantom X's X-Force passive is. Let's say Archangel, because I use that team. So Archangel says, hey, everybody on their level 9, that's Fatal Blow. So if, for example, your agent had an item that made him go early in combat, like the Combat Communicator or something, and you did a action, the game may not have scanned Psylocke yet at that point. Or let's say Archangel went first, and Archangel's supposed to act and be stealthy. So you're like, okay, I'm going to single target the enemy agent on the opposing side. He's supposed to be stealthy, so you click that button, and the game is like, oh, wait, shit, I got to go check the pre-combat buffs. And it may happen that he gets detected even though he's not supposed to, because the game didn't check the pre-combat buffs as you loaded in. It did it right as you were clicking the first action, and that would sometimes cause problems. Playdom never figured that problem out. It'll be interesting to see if Goofy does, but yeah, that's one of the issues that Playdom never fixed, and that is you drop in and you apply your pre-combat buffs and debuffs before the first action. Literally like Magic the Gathering, like the untap phase where you're supposed to take your land and untap them again. The game sort of would skip that a little bit. It would go right to the instant part of your phase where you could do like instant spells and shit. So that'll be interesting to see if he can fix an issue like that Play Dumb never did. And that's the updates I have right now for Goofy. But the big thing that we're going to be doing here is actually talking about the content team and the work that they've been doing. So the content team has a lot of announcements, and that is they have certain characters and abilities and Spec Ops that they are coding for the game when we get into the release candidate. So the way that it's going to go is at a sort of sped up pace, and this is a sped up speed pace, excuse me, similar to World of Warcraft Classic. When the final version is released, Goofy is going to be releasing it in the timeline of the original game. So when you first get the game, when it comes to a release candidate, you're going to be cut off somewhere around Gambit. Magic, maybe? Maybe Quicksilver? Yeah. Deadpool was an early earned character. And then this is around where you started earning characters. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I think the last character was maybe Scarlet Witch. Because, yeah. So, like, you won't on day one have Omega Sentinel available. You're not going to have Damien available because chronologically he wasn't in the game at that point. So the Spec Ops will release, the PvP will release. They will be quicker than the original game because remember, the original game was 2012 to 2016. We're not going to make you wait 4 years before you start getting the new content. The timeline's gonna be squashed a little bit. So, and I would say in the first year or so, you're gonna be running through old content the way that it was created when the game was live, following the chronological order. And then you're going to start getting into the new Spec Ops and the new PvP seasons that the content team has created. So that's what we're going to be talking about a lot here is this new material. So first off, we're going to be talking about Baldur's sprite and his infographics and everything. So Baldur as a sprite was done by Bridget Rocks. And here is the moves that he's going to have in the game. Brave Blades. And we have a wiki that we're going to pull up in just a minute too. So Baldur is going to be released. He has a level 1 of Brave Blades, a slashing attack that neutralizes and intimidates the target. A level 2 of Battle Courage, a determination attack that marks the target as an enemy of Asgard. This sprite is so good, I can't even tell you what this original sprite is supposed to be. Maybe, is it Heimdall? Let me go look at Heimdall over here. Like, that is how you can tell when there is really good sprite work. When you don't even know what the original... No, it's not. It's not Heimdall, because Heimdall grips down the shaft a little bit. He rests on top. It could be an enemy, but that's amazing right there. Like, that is Baldur's hat when you see him in other Marvel games and everything. It's phenomenal sprite work over here. And this is one of the things that scared me when the project first started. Would there be people who could do art at the level of the original game and not just simply like take Moon Knight, paint him black, and call him Batman? Be like, oh, hey, here's Batman. Well, first of all, we're not going to do Mugen shit. We're not going to have other characters. But, you know, people who's a simple recolor. Like, okay, recolor Thane and call him somebody else just because they changed the gold and maybe the black over there, put hair. Like, this is, like, legit very good sprite work. I don't even recognize the mob. And I think that's really telling. The animation's still maybe a little bit tough. But at least we have some sprites and we have some good ability icons and everything here. So, Battle Courage, a determination attack that marks the target as the enemy of Asgard. Brilliant Shine at level 6, a quick action that demoralizes enemies, prevents allies' health from being reduced to 0, and allows Balder to become the god of light. Bold Charge consumes all stacks of Valiance to deal additional damage, grants all allies Moment of Courage, and makes Balder the leader of the charge. So if we take a look at the wiki, which I've got to get over here, again, phenomenal artwork over there. He has a passive of Asgardian. We have to click to go see those. That means he's immune to burning, chill, poisoned, and radiation. He is a hero of Asgard. I kind of liked it when the tooltips worked on these pages, so you didn't have to click, but allies take reduced damage from incoming damage. Asgardian allies become immune to exploitation. Asgardian allies counterattacks against Balder. Oh, I think I could have some fun with that. The Power Cell kit with the Stalker and that. Man. I can design a lot of counterattacks around that. I'm already thinking of something. And God, I miss that. I miss having the brain to think of MAA stuff because other games just don't do this as nicely. But yeah, I can think of something to work with Balder. And he has the Brave, which is protecting allies from incoming attacks, grants all allies rising up, grants a stack of Valiance when protecting allies. So when is it that he grants allies the rising up? At the beginning of combat? Is this a pre-combat buff, or is it when he does the protecting? I wouldn't mind to see if it is when he does the protecting, because then that means you have to think of how to get around it. And that would be to use stealthy attacks so that he doesn't protect, so that he doesn't cause rising up. I mean, that's great if he does do it pre-combat, but then that also could be a fun tactical thing if he did that only when protecting. And then Valiance increases attack and accuracy, restores health when attacked, stacks to a maximum of 8 times. Special Operations 37 is where he's in. Brave Blades, Active Courage, Deadly Crits, Intimidate and Neutralize, Battle Courage, Asgardian Courage, Determination, Attack, Enemy of Asgard, which is unremovable. Don't forget, bordered means you cannot remove it through normal means. And Pressure Points, Brilliant Shine, it's a quick action. All enemies are demoralized. All allies have Shining Courage. What's the attack? Stun enemies with Intimidated or Cower. Self, God of Light. Chance to preemptively apply Staggered on all enemies before an allied attack. Well, that's complicated combat right there. Chance to preemptively blind all enemies before an enemy attack. Stealth. Stealth is the only thing that's going to work. Imagine blinding your team because you acted in a non-stealthy manner and then you blinded your team. Strong. Valiant Efforts. Grants an additional stack of Valiance. Restores a small amount of health. And then Bold Charge. Paragon Exploiter, Stand Ye Down. This attack ignores most attempts to interrupt it or protect against it. Applies Intimidated to all enemies if the enemy attempts to interrupt this action to protect their allies. So I'm going to say Stealth will be a counter to him, and people immune to the psychological effects. Also, people who are immune to blind attacks or light-based attacks. I'm not too sure if that's Cloak and Dagger or what's her tits over here? Carolina Dean. I forget if she has a passive or not that does it. Yeah, but like darkness and light, I think darkness and light related attacks will help against Balder, or protection against it, excuse me. So, there is Balder. So, we're going to go ahead and move on now to Cannonball's new mutant skin. So, these are, I'll pull Cannonball up in game real quick and we can go ahead and give a comparison over there. Cannonball, a little bit of trivia for you guys, was the last mutant that Marvel Avengers Alliance worked with. After Cannonball, that was pretty much it for a straight up mutant. Now, we did get Molly, who is classified as a mutant, but she didn't really come through the mutant universe. Cannonball was the last of the mutant universe. So you could see there's his original outfit, and here's the new one that he's going to have. New skin form, new outfit. There's another example of it. Looks pretty snazzy. It looks exactly like what you would expect a New Mutants one to look like. Here is some Jubilee artwork. Looks phenomenal. Looks like it could have come right out of many comics. Here's Jubilee's infographic. She has Roman Candle, a ranged attack that stacks plasmoids on the target and melts their defenses. Light Show, a ranged attack that leaves enemies blinded and open to energy attacks while allowing Jubilee to explode plasmoids on their enemies and rally her allies. Training purposes, a melee action that has a chance to chain plasmoids on enemies when they explode and allow them to cause burning. And then finally, Colorful Display consumes all plasmoids on the target with a chance to explode those on other enemies and cause disoriented. Little surprised to not see one called Fireworks or a reference to Fireworks there, but, well, no, actually that would be Roman Candle. I take that back. Well buried there in Roman Candle. Has anybody ever seen that video on YouTube where the dog picks up the Roman Candle and runs around and chases people? That's always a favorite. Alright, so there's her sprite. We have seen this before during one of the content drops, blowing the bubble. Very high stamina, very high attack, poor defense, actually poor accuracy, and decent evasion. So if you're doing the PKB method, you would build up attack and health, you would skip defense, give her accuracy, and give her evasion. She has a passive of Heart of the Team, chance to rally allies that are being attacked, restoring health and stamina. Chance to grant all allies dynamic edge at the start of each round. Allies have a chance to protect Jubilee from incoming attacks. Real Firecracker, chance to preemptively detonate plasmoids on enemies before an incoming attack. Guaranteed to counter enemy attacks against targets of a disadvantaged class. Guaranteed to counter enemy attacks against targets of a disadvantaged class. Little wordy there. Guaranteed to counter enemy attacks against targets of a disadvantaged class. So is that saying she's going to counter an attack from a scrapper on the enemy team into your bruiser? Little wordy. That might require more kind of simple explanation or maybe just a bigger one that sort of really defines what they're going for there. Chance to ignore psychic attacks and effects. Higher chance if the attack is an area of attack. Did Jubilee ever have any protection against that? Seeing Jubilee in the game opens up the possibility for a uniform in the future. I'm not speaking on behalf of the content team because I don't know if they will ever do this, but I think you guys could possibly think of a good uniform for Jubilee. I guess you could say I'm dying to find out if they ever do that. So level 1, Roman Candle. Combustible and dazzling display. Attacks against burning targets are guaranteed to crit. Dazzling display. Chance to replace up to 3 beneficial effects on all enemies with stacks of unstable plasmoid. Wow, that's kind of powerful. Unstable plasmoid. Unstable plasmoid's ready to blow. Stacks to a maximum of 5 times. So I think this is sort of like the mine mechanics where you can stack mines on somebody and then find a way to blow them up. I think that's what they're going for with this. Chance, yep, okay, we know that. Blinded and illuminated, that's new. Taking additional damage from energy attacks. Did gamma radiation make that happen? I'm trying to remember. I thought there was something that ramps up energy damage. This would work really well, I think, with the crooked branch. Yeah, I think this could go... Well, reverberation was tech. The raw one? What was that raw one? Symbol... Wasn't there one that looked like an Ankh? See, it's been so long at this point. I know some things, but I sort of forget their name. It had the... Oh, shit. I'm trying to think of some things here, and I'm kind of drawing blanks. Reverberate... The Crooked Branch was great for magic users, and it was anti-tech. But then there was something that said if you did an energy attack, you took a pop. And static charge counted for that. So if you had static charge and you blew up from static charge, this piece of gear that I'm thinking of also gave you a pretty good pop from it. It worked, yeah. So it worked well with the Electrotech hammers and everything. Yeah, and Thunderstrike. That was a good one to pair with it. Oh, I should know this because I loved using it. Was it from the Thor? Damn. I'm sort of forgetting it, but yeah, there was something that would pop you if you used a energy attack. And when you procced a static charge, that counted as you quote-unquote using an electrical or energy attack, even though you weren't actually attacking, but the fact that that little debuff went off on you. I'm gonna have to probably add that to the comments of the video. Radiation exposure. Does that make energy do more? Increased damage from energy attacks. I was right. It wasn't exactly gamma. So radiation exposure is something similar to what Jubilee can do over there. But I wonder if I can find... I think it says you heal if you use energy attacks, but if the enemy does it, they take a pop. Was it something that looked like the radiation emitter? No. Blast. It's probably under the debuff category. I'll know it. I'll be able to dig it up at some point. I'm not going to hold you guys out on the video listening to me try and figure this thing out, but it's that blue Ankh symbol. I think if I look up... Alright, I'm lying. Apparently I am going to go ahead and try and find this. It was from the Spec Ops that Havoc came from, if I remember correctly. Source in the Nile. This, right? Yes, there it is. Okay, energy feedback causes damage after performing an energy attack. So, little known fact, if static charge pops on you and energy feedback is on you, energy feedback will pop you too. Lovely. Lovely how this game was the thinking man's game over there. So yeah, that works pretty well with Illuminated. Hit somebody with Illuminated, have somebody with radiation poisoning, have Source of the Nile up on them. Lots of fun. Already thinking of shit to do with these guys, and it's not even out yet. Initiator. Plasmoids detonated nearby may link to this target, causing a stack of unstable plasmoid to detonate. That's fun. That's sort of like when the bleeds could skip around. I think there was something that made bleeds jump from one to another. Detonated plasmoids trigger burning on this target. So that's sort of like, was it Ravage makes bleeds do extra damage or makes you bleed out right then and there? Exploits blindness, exploits burning, fireworks show. There we go. Detonates all stacks. Chance to detonate unstable plasmoids on other enemies. And then all enemies get disoriented. So far, Baldur and Jubilee are proving to be quite strong. Very, very solid characters. Alright, so next we have Loki in his classic uniform. And we're going to take a look at the wiki for that. And here is classic Loki coming in as a tactician and an infiltrator. Pretty solid sprite. You know it's going to be solid because he was in the game as this. Low health, very high stamina, very piss poor attack, garbage defense, very high accuracy and evasion, of course, that makes sense. God of Mischief performs a follow-up attack when enemies attack each other. Brilliant. Love it. Phantom X, I think, does something similar to that. So Phantom X might be a really good person to team up with Loki. Heir to Jotunheim, immune to ice attacks and effects, chance to summon a Jotun warrior when an ally attacks or is attacked. I like that. When do you see responsive summons like that? That's good. Whoever came up with that passive, I like that a lot. And Eli Smith. 20% chance to create illusions, avoiding attacks and then countering them, applying Bane. That makes me think he's going to go well with Scarlet Witch. Potentially probability hacking, making you avoid attacks, and then that also making... That could be fun. I actually have a video on YouTube of those two combined, and I called it Team Trolling Nuts, I think. Yes, PvP Team Trolling Nuts. There he is. There's Loki, and there's Goth Witch over there. This does make use of the Crooked Branch. That was a core part of that team up right there, was the Crooked Branch. I floated this idea to Kingfisher very, very, very early on, when I was kind of a YouTube scrub with content, and he never really carried it into his videos because I didn't have good Loki at the time. And then eventually I got Loki to the point where I was like, fuck it, I'm doing my own video on it. Mischievous Blast, Guaranteed Hit, Combustible Deadly Crits, Bane Soulfire, Fog of Chaos, Mind Games, Cursed Mirror, we all know that. So Chaos, Breakdown, that's always a fun one. I always liked Breakdown. Catastrophic there. Trickster Seal, it's a free action, subtle Trickster on all enemies, and then on himself he gets Trickster Shield, which absorbs damage, gains damage increase if attack while the shield is active. And actually, there's Fiendish Trick. That is the increased damage. And you can see that was on a boss Loki right there. And then, actually, this might... So this is picky, but I could say you should edit the Hall of Mirrors icon here to be mirror images of this Loki skin and not the original Loki skin, but that's being a little petty. I apologize for that. Hall of Mirrors. Alright. So we've now taken a look at classic Loki. Here is his coming soon artwork. Phenomenal. Same thing for Cannonball. I am the Rocket Man. Jubilee's coming soon. The X-Mansion behind. Here we have Nightmare, and this came from one of the content drops in the past. We can take a look at Nightmare over here. That's his battle sprite. Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him well. Relentless, unstunnable. Nightmare is a demon with the ability to capture a sleeping mortal's astral form and torture them in his nightmare realm, Freddy Krueger style. With his fearsome winged steed named Dreamstalker, Nightmare inspires fear in all those who oppose him. While significantly weaker outside of his realm, he's still a formidable foe, for those who cross his path. So he will be a boss that we will be fighting at some point. And then we have this rock troll. This is great. I love this. I mean, I can tell this was a a Jotun-based character over here, and that's not even a 12-pack. That's like a 72-pack going on over there. It looks like he has a comb for a 6-pack, so that's really cool. This guy is not skipping ab day, and he's not skipping leg day. Really cool artwork done over here. Again, buries the original well enough. This doesn't look like a Sub-Zero Scorpion palette swap. Very good sprite editing there. Here we have Sleepwalker. But before we get over to Sleepwalker, let's look at the Rock Troll. He is a bruiser. Rock Trolls are the least human-looking residents of Asgard. They have the skin of a ruddy orange color and were almost simian in body structure. The belligerents are extremely hostile and aggressive. And there's a little bit of a better image of his 72-pack over there. That is the equivalent of about 4 washboards in Emmett Otter's Jug Band. Let's get Sleepwalker up on the wiki. So here is Sleepwalker. So that sort of he's belongs to the organization, an organization called the League of Losers. You could tell that is probably a Green Goblin edit, but again, very, very good. I don't even see that much of the game's Green Goblin in there. Which reminds me, I would really like to see... I don't think the game had Hobgoblin, but I would love to see... No, I would love to see Hobgoblin make an appearance in Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux. And you know what? Call me a little political, but I'm going to say this, and you guys can hate me for it if you want to. I would like to see a Spec Ops where the boss is Hate Monger and maybe potentially have a modern setting in it. And I know what you're thinking, like, oh, haha, U.S. politics, I get it. I see, where you're going with that. I don't mean that, but I mean I wouldn't mind fighting Hate Monger as a boss who has maybe like a Hate Monger gun that does things to your team that makes them like fight each other and have increased strength at the time that they do it, or increased strength and accuracy. It maybe like an unremovable mind control debuff that it can't be removed until the member of your team attacks your team twice. Or maybe a time shifted Spec Ops where you go back to like 1945, like World War II Captain America. Maybe have some of the British defenders in there with Captain America and Hate Monger as the group boss. But yeah, I would like to see Hobgoblin and Hate Monger show up in Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux at some point. I think that would be fun. But I could understand Hate Monger being, a little controversial. But remember, always punch Nazis. All right, so moving on from that again. Apologies if that sounded a little political over there. Spec Ops 37 artwork, Spec Ops 38 artwork, Spec Ops 39. That's very intriguing. I'm very intrigued by this art. I very much want to know what the hell is going on there. It's like Symbiote Punisher. Spec Ops 41. Movie Valkyrie or Valkyrie Reagan Life. God, I hope I pronounced that right. Raging Life. Sharp Chivalry, a slashing attack that causes pain train on the target and allows Valkyrie and her allies to restore health when the enemy is defeated. Very interesting. Leaps and Bounds, a slashing attack that exploits openings on the target and allows Valkyrie to raise her stats around enemies with Death Glow. Scrapper 142, a determination attack that leaves the target fatigued and more open to Valkyrie's attacks, and Warsong Gatling, a catastrophic range attack that leaves her targets shell-shocked. So, we will take a brief look at that, and then we can take a look at some of the Spec Ops pages of that art we were taking a look at there. So here is this Valkyrie. She's coming in as a scrapper, high stamina, decent attack, low defense, very good accuracy, decent evasion. I would maybe flip this a little bit. I would drop the evasion to a 2 and the defense to a 3. That seems more on par with her. That's just my opinion. Sorry. Gains Defender of Souls when an ally is defeated, which is restores health to all remaining allies when removed or expired. Reduces incoming damage. Stacks a maximum of 3. I kind of like her with Vanilla Angel. I think this could be fun with Vanilla Angel over here. Deathglow is grants health to Valkyrie and her allies when this enemy is KO'd. Pretty cool. The Side of the Slain raises all stats when an ally is defeated. Raises all stats when Oh, you know, my brain is going for suicide. I like the Phylactery with this. Raising the stats on your team by the agent killing himself, considering to be slain, but then coming back. Another character I can't wait to get my hands on. Preemptive counter enemy attacks against protecting allies. Grants all allies fortified and covered when countering this way. Preemptive counter enemy attacks against protecting... Maybe good with Balder. Restores health to all remaining allies when removed or expired. Reduces incoming damage. Wow, can you imagine this Valkyrie and Balder in PvP? Oh boy, that's tough. That could be a lot of protection in early That could be hard to take down. Pain Train we know about. It was around in the vanilla game. Causes pain, then it applies exposed. It goes from pain to exposed to wide open. Sort of like the how webbed was stacking. Sight of Soul gains Defender of Souls when attacking an enemy with Deathglow. Valkyrie gains Attacker when attacking an enemy with Deathglow. Gains Defender when attacked by a target with Deathglow. Sort of reminds me of how Molly would stack up when she would defend and attack. Sort of like an Asgardian Molly to a certain degree. Fatigue. Wiki page needs a little bit of help with fatigue over there, so... Causes action to drain additional stamina. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought we were going for in that one. Applies fatigue instead. Yeah, I think we're going for this fatigue over here. It makes sense. I agree with that. And tenderize, and then all enemies gain shell-shocked and target focus, catastrophic, guaranteed crit. I wonder if that's a reference to the gun from the ship in Thor Ragnarok. Would be kind of cool. And the Spec Ops that we have been talking about here with this art is Götterdämmerung, Rift Tech Raiders, Familiar Ties, and Dream Within a Dream. We won't go over all of these because we don't want to make this too long, but we'll just pull up one of them. For example, Götterdämmerung. Asgard is under siege. Odin is nowhere to be found, and both Thor, Odin's son, and Thor, goddess of thunder, are defenseless deep in the Odin sleep. The enemies of Asgard are beleaguered and outnumbered as enemy legions march through the streets and overwhelm the palace. With Asgard's doom imminent, her people make a final brave stand to rescue the survivors, protect the gods of thunder, and keep her dangerous treasure out of wicked hands. This is how you're going to recruit Balder. By doing the tasks. So there is an example of a Spec Ops that they're working on. They're calling it 37. The others, you can go to this wiki page and find the Rift Tech Raiders, the Familiar Ties, and Dream Within a Dream. So I do believe I have covered all of the announcements the team has put out into the announcements channel recently. Thank you to the content team for making this possible, packing up everything in a zip file for me so that I could cover it easily. Bridget Rocks, again, thank you very much for the work that you've done on this. We also have a lockbox over here, which will probably go with maybe Goddard Damarung. That kind of looks like Executioner's axe over there. And the colors sort of look like Baldur's, but the copper is a little too strong for it to go with Baldur. Baldur doesn't have that much copper, but he does kind of have that purple that you see in here and everything. Sort of reminds me of Executioner, that axe, but I could be way off on that. So guys, there are some updates for Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux, things coming in the future, and some new content when the game releases again. Minor update from Goofy on what's happening. Nothing really much to talk about for Beta 4. Please remember, if you are communicating in the comment section of other channels, do not make promises on when content drops, when Beta 4 might drop, when the final release candidate might drop. You don't know anything. Only Goofy knows those things. So unless it comes from Goofy, you are to take things like that with a grain of salt, even from me. If I say something is going to come out on a day, I don't necessarily speak the truth unless I tell you this is straight from Goofy himself. So if you are seeing people comment on channels like DP Alliance and Canal TV, and they are promising certain things, do know they may not be 100% correct. And if you are somebody who comments over there, it would be best if you stopped, especially if you are not on any of the teams on the project. Do not write checks your ass cannot cash properly. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video and the updates. And again, download Beta 2 and 3. Keep them in separate folders, and you will get different play experiences over there. This is Napalm Dawn saying peace out. And good to be talking to you guys again.